I'm Ben Meiselas from the MeidasTouch Network. Democrats are hitting back hard against the MAGA Republicans in the House of Representatives whose missing whistleblower turned out to not be a whistleblower at all, and in fact was an unregistered foreign agent of China and was doing the bidding of the government of China to try to influence and harm the United States of America. Let me read for you a letter that was just sent by Democrat members of the House of Representatives led by Jamie Raskin and Dan Goldman, who wrote this letter. Here's the letter sent to Jim Comer, MAGA Republican who chairs the House Oversight Committee, and they just blast him in this letter. Here's what the letter says. Dear Chairman Comer, we write in connection with yesterday's shocking revelation that Gail Luft, a supposed whistleblower in your political probe into President Biden's family, has been charged with several felonies by the U.S. Attorney for the Southern District of New York, including arms trafficking, operating as an unregistered foreign agent for the Chinese Communist Party, CCP, and making false statements to federal agents, and it cites the indictment. According to a statement by the Department of Justice, Mr. Luft was engaged in multiple serious criminal schemes, including allegedly evading foreign agent registration, FARA registration, while conspiring with others to advance the interest of the People's Republic of China in the United States through an advisor to then President-elect Donald Trump. The indictment also charges Mr. Luft with illegally trafficking CCP manufactured weapons to Iran in exchange for Iranian oil provided to China. Finally, the false statement charges eviscerate any credibility this individual may have. We are concerned that an official committee of the House of Representatives has been manipulated by an apparent con man who, while a fugitive from justice, attempted to fortify his defense by laundering unfounded and potentially false allegations through Congress. And yes, they are talking about your committee, James Comer. They're talking about your committee, Jim Jordan, and all of these MAGA Republican committees that continue to side with Russian oligarchs who they claim as whistleblowers doing Putin's bidding, and now an agent of the CCP who's trying to spread malinformation, disinformation, and is actually smuggling weapons and oil. What in the world is going on here? It goes on to say, for example, despite being on the run for months, you touted Mr. Luft as a potential witness and even prepared to interview him as part of his investigation. As recently as Friday, you described Mr. Luft as a, quote, very credible witness about matters relating to the president's son's financial dealing with Chinese companies. Mr. Luft purportedly shared his allegations about Hunter Biden with officials from the Federal Bureau of Investigations and Department of Justice in a March 2019 meeting in Brussels. In fact, the indictment alleges that Mr. Luft repeatedly lied to federal agents during that very same meeting. And by the way, if you go into the indictment, you can see the lies, you can see what he was representing to the FBI, because they then compare it to Mr. Luft's actual messages and emails and communications, where you see him coordinating, for example, these unlawful arms deals. You can see the actual messages where he's communicating about having somebody in the inside of the Trump administration where they could influence the Trump administration on behalf of the government of China. Like, you can see the messages when you read the indictment. Go back and look at the video where I went through the indictment. It goes on to say, in May, In response to statements that you, quote, lost Mr. Luft, you further acknowledged Mr. Luft's duplicity, stating, quote, remember these informants are kind of in the spy business, so they don't make a habit of being seen a lot or being high profile or anything like that. Indeed, Mr. Luft has now been charged with being an unregistered foreign agent of the CCP's interest in the United States. In other words, a spy for China. Despite previous public reporting about Mr. Luft's evasion of the serious criminal charges unsealed yesterday, Senator Ron Johnson even demanded that Mr. Luft be granted immunity from prosecution in order to help Republicans attack President Biden, asserting that, quote, he's literally fleeing for his life right now. He's on the run. He's an important witness. He needs to be granted immunity to be able to testify and tells his story. It appears as if Mr. Luft sought, quote, whistleblower status from you in an effort to defend himself from criminal prosecution while a fugitive from justice. Worse yet, this latest episode also raises concerns that Mr. Luft may be manipulating your investigation, not only for his own self-interest, but perhaps also in furtherance of the CCP's efforts to undermine U.S. security interests and the President of the United States. These recent revelations naturally raise broader concerns about the credibility and motivations of other purported whistleblowers that congressional Republicans have relied on to support unfounded and baseless allegations. Sadly, the Luft episode severely undermines the credibility of the critical function of whistleblowers in this body. We further note that you have refused to share any documents or information that you have received from Mr. Luft with Oversight Committee Democrats. Given your own public endorsements of Mr. Luft's information, there is no plausible basis for you to withhold from committee Democrats any and all information that Mr. Luft has provided to the committee, including any information that led you to conclude that he is a, quote, very credible witness despite being under indictment and a fugitive from the justice. Let me pause there before reading the last paragraph. You get the implication there. It seems that the MAGA Republicans are harboring a fugitive of justice who is being accused of being a spy of the CCP. They've been communicating with him. They may know where he is and preventing the Department of Justice from arresting him. That's what's going on here. Last paragraph. In order to protect the Congress's institutional credibility and to reassure the American people that the CCP is not using Republican investigations as a vehicle to undermine the United States government, we urge you to immediately initiate an investigation into whether the committee may have been unwittingly duped by Mr. Luft in furtherance of the CCP's interest, as well as any potentially false statements made by Mr. Luft to members of Congress or congressional staff. In addition, we request that you immediately provide committee Democrats with all materials and information provided by Mr. Luft to the committee. Sincerely, Jamie Raskin and Dan Goldman. And just so you recall, this was from middle of May, where James Comer, this is referenced in the letter, says that there's this spy informant who's their whistleblower who's gone missing because they're in the spy business. Here, play this clip.
Hold on a second, Congressman. Did you just say that the whistleblower or the informant is now missing?
Well, we're hopeful that we can find the informant. Now, remember, these informants are kind of in the spy business.
Yeah, a spy against America. And by the way, these charges come from 2022, before the MAGA Republicans even got into power. And so even though it was just recently unsealed, it's not like he was just charged with it. It's not like the investigation just took place. I mean, James Comer knew that this individual was a fugitive on the run and likely a spy against the United States of America. And by the way, this is what James Comer just said a few days ago after all of this is what James Comer said. He's very credible, and the people on MSNBC who made fun of me should feel like fools right now. Play this clip.
No, he's very credible, and the people on MSNBC who made fun of me when I said we had an informant that was missing, they should feel like fools right now.
They are fools.
And this is their worst nightmare because, again, this is a credible witness that the FBI flew all the way to Brussels to interview and sent several agents to interview.
And here is Democratic Congress member Dan Goldman talking about the letter that he just sent. Play this clip.
You and Congressman Jamie Raskin have written a letter to Congressman Comer, which reads in part, "We are concerned that an official committee of the House of Representatives has been manipulated by an apparent con man who, while a fugitive from justice, attempted to fortify his defense by laundering unfounded and potentially false allegations through Congress. It appears as if Mr. Luft sought whistleblower status from you in an effort to defend himself from criminal prosecution while a fugitive from justice. Worse yet, this latest episode also raises concerns that Mr. Luft may be manipulating your investigation not only for his own self-interest, but perhaps also in furtherance of the CCP's efforts to undermine U.S. security interests and the President of the United States." So, Congressman, who is Gal Luft for our audience, and who is he not, as James Comer and others have suggested he is?
Well, he's certainly not a legitimate whistleblower, and what he is an alleged con man, as we said in the letter, who brokered a weapons for oil deal between China and Iran multiple times, who was an unregistered agent advancing the interests of the CCP in the United States, and who, very importantly, is indicted on making false statements to the FBI, including in the very meeting that he provided information about Hunter Biden to the FBI. So the remarkable situation that we're in now is that the key whistleblower, informant / witness in Chairman Comer's oversight investigation into the bogus allegations of the Biden crime family and all that is actually someone who has represented the interests of the CCP, has lied to the FBI, and is a fugitive from justice, who is literally running away from accountability from the United States court system. And upon receiving that information, Chairman Comer, we would naturally think, would say, oh boy, let's hold back here. This guy has zero credibility, and he may actually be advancing nefarious interests. No, he's doubling down now.
You know, one of the things we talk about here over and over again on the MeidasTouch network is what's taking place here shouldn't actually be characterized as a political issue. Republicans are politicizing it by claiming that these fake whistleblowers, have information when these are individuals who are just so clearly and obviously enemies of the United States of America and criminals. It's not a political view to say an unauthorized foreign agent of the CCP is not credible. That's not me attacking conservative speech. That's me attacking criminals. That's me criticizing criminals, right? It's not me attacking conservative speech when I say that a Putin-linked oligarch, who, by the way, denies that anything that is purported to have come from him occurred. But the fact that I would say, look, this Putin-linked oligarch, probably not a whistleblower. That's not me criticizing conservative speech. That's just kind of being a rational human being and supporting our great democracy here in the United States of America. And that's what the stakes are right here. And that's why I am glad that you have Democrats like Jamie Raskin and Dan Goldman and others calling this out. I hear a lot from the past, Democrats are not good at messaging. I don't think so anymore. I think Democrats are good at messaging right now. I really do. I think with people like Jamie Raskin and Dan Goldman and people like Jared Moskowitz and Hakeem Jeffries, and AOC and others. I think that there are powerful messengers. Ultimately, they could maybe even be different spectrums of what it means to be a Democrat. maybe, but ultimately united in the support of our democracy. I can go on and list other great messengers, but you get it. I'm Ben Meiselas from the MeidasTouch Network. Hit subscribe. We're on our way to 1.5 million subscribers. Check us out at patreon.com/MeidasTouch. Wherever you get audio podcasts, make sure you subscribe to the MeidasTouch podcast, and have an excellent day.
Hey, Meidas Mighty. Love this report? Continue the conversation by following us on Instagram @MeidasTouch to keep up with the most important news of the day. What are you waiting for? Follow us now.